Good morning. It's Friday, January 27th. This is Matt Bennett from agmarket.net out here to help Joe Vaklovic. I've got Betsy Gibbon along, got Brian Split as well. Brian's having some technical difficulties this morning, so we might not see his lovely face, but he will be providing some analysis as he did yesterday. So to start the day here, we've got March corn up 2 cents at 684 and a half. We've got soybeans March at 1526 up 2.5. You've got Chicago wheat, 752 and 3/4 up a quarter. Kansas City wheat up to or down 2 3/4 at 862, and spring wheat down 4 1/4 at 913 and 3/4. And so we're going to jump in and talk about a few different things here. Try to bring Brian in on some stuff, try to bring Betsy in on some stuff. But to start with, we're going to talk about weekly export sales. And so yesterday we had weekly export sales. Corn was off a little bit from what we saw a week ago, but it was actually within the range of guesses. And, it wasn't a horrible number. It's just we need to see these numbers are better for sure. Last week we were, 1.22. Soybeans were better than what we saw a week ago. And quite frankly, for this point in the calendar year, probably a little bit of a rich number. And then you got wheat at 561,000 tons. So, Brian, if we're able to bring you in, what did you make out of the export sales numbers there on Thursday morning?
I thought overall, I'd really like to see corn maintain numbers over 1 million tons week to week. Last week we did about 1.2 million. This week we were down about 300,000 from last week, so a little disappointing, but the market took that in stride, and we saw some strong buying. The spreads are acting strong, so I think we're continuing to get some actual business done. On the bean side, like you said, that's a good number for this time of year. There's been a little bit of talk about the economics of China potentially canceling U.S. soybeans and changing the origin to South America, Brazil beans. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition in the next couple months. And I thought that wheat number was really good. So all in all, I thought the export numbers, big picture, were pretty good. I just want to see this corn number start to maintain over 1 million tons week to week.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We need to see sales, and then of course shipments following up. And this is going to be our time to shine here over the next 2 to 3 months. Let's move on here a little bit. We're going to talk about this drought situation. Obviously, this previous fall, you look at the landmass, October 11th of 22, as you can see on the right. You were looking at severe drought over a fair amount, of course, of the plains. But as far as the continental U.S., you had more of the U.S. in drought than we'd seen in quite some time. You see the drought severity classification index here on the far right down here on the chart at 188. And I know all of you are saying, I don't know what the heck that means. But I can tell you that compared to today, 137, there's certainly been some significant improvement. So, Betsy, I'm going to bring you in. Obviously, in your part of the world, you guys struggled in certain areas close to you with drought. It was kind of a hit or miss. I know some folks in that part of the world had good crops, some folks didn't. But what have you seen as far as weather's been concerned here over the last several weeks?
Here's a situation in the little corner I'm in southeast South Dakota. Is when you look at that drought monitor and you see the area I'm in, we're still experiencing some type of dryness. The whole state really is looking at this a little bit, or from what I can see on that picture. However, I will say family members, farmers I've talked to in the area, people in the community, they are a little bit worried. And the reason they are worried is we've had the amount of snowfall, which next time I will get the exact number. I can call the National Weather Service and find out. But the amount of snowfall we've received is something we haven't received in several years. And on top of that, don't scoff at me for saying this, but the old timers say the amount of fog we've received as well, that could be precipitation in 90 days. And I don't have to tell you what happens in 90 days and how that's a key area for planting in my area. So some folks are worried that we experience severe dryness. Are we going to be very wet, especially if this thing thaws out and thaws out fast? And if that fog does indeed turn into precipitation 90 days from now, I don't know. We're a little bit worried about a wet spring.
Right, absolutely. And the trajectory of this storm we had this week actually kind of moved through some of these darkest red areas. So I don't know, Betsy, you'd probably agree with me to at least it seems based upon that storm system, based upon what Eric Snodgrass told us on our webinar for Ag Market a couple of weeks ago, that we're kind of trending in the right direction as far as weather's concerned. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think some of those key areas, I mean, I'm not in an area that some people need this precipitation, but the area I'm in, that we're kind of teetering that line, and we had such a dry such a dry season last season. Now we're worried we're just going to be too wet. And I want to ask you later, maybe in the next video, if will that translate into soybean acres in my area of the world, but we can talk about that later.
Absolutely. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Of course, we all know that whenever you look at this Argentine situation, dryness, drought, heat, if you will, you see what the soybean meal chart did on the right. Just absolutely skyrocketed there towards the 1st of December. We're going to bring Brian in to talk a little bit about, just the whole situation, but how he sees this chart, because there's certainly some things to glean, not only from what you see as far as that huge rise, but what have we done here over the last couple 3 days. So Brian, take it away.
Yeah, man, thanks. I think the important thing to know just in the short term is, the articles are suggesting, hey, we're getting rain in Argentina, we're getting rain in southern Brazil. And we definitely came out of the weekend trading that with some sharply lower values. But I think if we're trying to use soy meal as a bit of a barometer as far as how the trade feels about the overall situation in Argentina, here we are, late in the week, and we're sitting about $25 a ton off of the early week's lows. We retested those weekly lows on Wednesday, so we rallied off of them, turned around, retested those lows on Wednesday, bounced off them again, and here we are finishing the week strong. And there's some day left today, obviously, but the meal chart right now suggests that this concern about Argentina is not done yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fair to say with a variety of commodities, but no doubt about it. Whenever you look at this soybean meal situation, it's been an impressive move to say the least. So, staying on the topic of charts, we got a really cool chart here. Of course, nat gas. I think a lot of folks have been following this. First time since May 21, we've been below $3. So at the top, you see the daily chart, which just looks absolutely atrocious. But Brian's got a pretty cool monthly continuous chart I want to have him talk about here. So go ahead with that as well, Brian.
So monthly continuous chart is going to be every bar is 1 month, and a continuous chart means it's always showing the front month values on the chart. And really all I've got here is we had record highs. That's the downtrend from those record highs. And Matt, you had mentioned 2021 May. This is the first time since May that we've been below $3. Well, in August of 2021, we took out that long-term downtrend, kind of popped through it, and then a couple months later, September, October, we built a base against that trend line and then had that strong rally into the highs made in 2022. So my suggestion would be, if you're an end user or you need to lock in any type of natural gas needs, either lock that in or look at some kind of a hedge to the upside, because I think these natural gas values could very quickly recover from these levels.
No, absolutely. And I will say, if you like Brian's technical analysis, those of you that are premium content folks with Joe heard an incredible presentation from Brian yesterday as far as new crop was concerned. So if you didn't get that, it might be a good time to subscribe to that. And that's just a little plug for Joe and Brian here. But talk a little bit about, U.S. Department of Energy allocates $118 million of biofuels projects. This is at a time, when we've got a lot of buzz about renewable fuels, sustainable aviation fuel. I know Betsy did a lot of work, national reporting, with Farm Journal over the years, and she's been in a lot of these conversations. But how do you view this type of news and what it might be as far as support for U.S. agriculture, Betsy?
Well, I think you kind of said it best. Any acknowledgement we see, especially from the U.S. Energy Department when it comes to biofuel projects, has to be a positive, or at least has to be trending in the right direction, especially when you look at the sustainable aviation fuels really gaining steam. So this seems to be exciting.
No, absolutely. And so that's all we've got as far as this particular information goes. We just want to kind of highlight a few of these topics for today. But, just looking at what the livestock markets did yesterday, of course, you had fat cattle, 156.72, down a little bit less than $1.87. And so, obviously fat cattle market has been pretty exciting at times, but taking a little bit of the shine off, especially whenever corn's rallying. You look at feeders, 182.85, down 90 cents. And then, of course, you look at hogs, 77.025 on your front month there, Feb, at down 22.5 cents. So, when we look at, when we look at what the outside markets are doing here this morning, you got crude oil up 82.31 on the March, up $1.30. Dollar's not doing a whole lot, 101.71, down just 7 cents. And then you look over at the equities, and it's fairly quiet. Nasdaq's down 46, but the Dow's only down 15. So that's going to wrap up our segment here for today, Friday the 27th. And thanks for tuning in. Again, we appreciate Joe kind of handing over the keys to us, and I hope we didn't screw it up too bad. I hope you guys got something out of what we talked about here today. So once again, thank you for joining us.